Bright and early, I'm here with you. So take a sip, get a swig, whatever you have in the morning to get going. We're back 2-1 night last night. That means we are 9-6 heading into the weekend. You deserve one, right? Why not? Take a sip. All right, here we go. Looking at 3 plays for you across the board. We're going to head on over to BetMGM. Hit the thumbs up button, please. If you haven't already, subscribe here to the ever-growing Odd Shopper community. We have so much happening just today alone, let alone when the NFL starts. You know that we're going to have things cranked up even more, including, I'm told, a live betting show on this channel. What? All right, let's head on over to BetMGM and open up with the first game on the slate. This was an absolute horrific ending or start to ending for the Phillies last night, late night in San Francisco. So it's an early turnaround. We're going to go, yes, there will be a run in the first inning, -110 here across the board. I'm a little surprised, actually, but we'll see if this moves. Again, we're up early here for you on this Saturday because we want to get things going even for the later games. But looking at this right away, the 2 pitchers on the mound just don't strike anybody out. I'm not worried about Jake Junis, nor am I worried about Noah Syndergaard blowing anybody back off the plate. So the win last night and the manner in which it happened, I think represents where the Giants are right now, not to the point where they're going to score 13 runs a game, but their offense picking up. You're starting to see even breaking out of that mini slump where they were striking out left and right. Noah Syndergaard's not that strong of a pitcher to bring them back to that. So I think comfortably San Francisco has moved away from what we saw, which was this recent little slip where they were just the easiest, or one of the, they look like the Angels out there striking out left and right. On the other side, the Phillies offense is still dangerous. And I've seen this all year. There's a lot of variance in this offense. You can get 1 run, no runs through 9 innings. You can get 7 runs through 2. It's just the matter of explosion. And usually it's deeper into the game with the starting pitcher, the 4th through 6th innings, where the Phillies lineup is truly at its most dangerous, because now you're getting that second and a half, maybe even third time through, where if you've kept them at bay, they have the power. So I recognize that even at the top of the lineup here, this is going to be difficult for Jake Junis. He doesn't keep many guys off the bag, at least with strikeouts. Same scenario with Syndergaard. Giants, they average .55 runs per first inning at home. They put 4 up in the first last night against the Phillies. And I think when you look at this overall, I don't know how much this will move, but this is a standard NFL VIG market that we're betting into, -110. And I like this short turnaround impacting the pitchers. Jake Junis more so, Syndergaard more so, than helping them out. So I don't look at this as any scenario at all, really, that helps out the arms. I think the arms are at a disadvantage. Syndergaard's at a disadvantage, and so is Jake Junis. All right, let's hit you up with this. What's happening here at BetMGM, because it's a really simple process. And I know that just on the channel, when I was putting this up earlier today, Rasa's got some big bet up. You want to check that out. His sharp play of the day. Gajeski's ran through some stuff here. So you have so much content on this channel alone just today for a risk-free bet. And I had somebody, we were talking about this last night about, oh, what should I do with my risk-free? Where should I, what should I put it on? I told him, I said, look, just wait until Saturday morning. You're going to get a best bet play from Rasa. You're going to get something from Gajeski, and just figure it out. You can put 2 together. You can put Gajeski's best play and Rasa's best play together and watch some great college football while cashing some tickets on some NRFI or YRFI plays here. So you don't even need to worry about what we're giving out. Bet it, forget it, and then cash in on one of these great offers here at BetMGM. So you click the link below, use our promo code OSNRFI. Either way, it's the same spot, same destination, same process to sign up. And when you do, I would deposit what you're going to bet the first time around. So if you're going to take advantage of a risk-free bet at, let's say, $500, because it's up to $1,000, $500. I don't know, maybe it's something $200 is your bankroll, $100. It doesn't matter what it is, $750. Deposit that and then immediately play that all, yes, all, as your risk-free bet, because it's up to $1,000 and it's risk-free. So we've all taken advantage of this, all of us here on the channel. It's not a selling point. I don't get any extra money if Tom or Dave or anybody else clicks the link. So it's really for you. It's really just a smart opportunity to build a bankroll or double your bankroll or triple your bankroll. Astros-Angels game. Shohei's on the mound. And we'll see if this moved from the written piece, although there wasn't that wide of a gap today between the written. Another one. Look, we're betting into NFL markets. I love this. -110, -110. Yes, there will be a run in the first inning. Look, Shohei.
Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm joined today by DFS legend Terry McBride. You can find him on Twitter at DigitalB21. And this show is sponsored by PrizePicks, which offers daily prop-based contests. While you're coming in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are MLB Top Stacks. Everything we have to offer for MLB night slates on DraftKings is also 100% free for the remainder of the season, which gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing. Just click on the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and projections. Terry, it's been a while.
It has. Yeah, it's been a little bit since I feel like we did a bunch of shows beginning of the season, then NBA season ended and all the full-time show guys freed up a little bit, and then we stopped doing shows together all of a sudden. But
I know.
Yeah, definitely great to be here with you, buddy. And just kudos on a nice, smooth, like easygoing intro, hit all the plugs. Like that was just like professionally, just like backing the car out of the driveway, looking both ways. I start these shows when I'm hosting and it's just 100 miles an hour, just no looking, just throw it in reverse and go. So it's refreshing to hear a professional do this the right way, buddy. That was really nice.
I don't know. I think anybody watching the show can probably just tell that I'm reading. I just put everything out, especially at 8 a.m. I'm not going to be having like my own original thoughts during the show. I'm just, anything I say is just going to be read because my brain is not quite functioning yet.
I think that's my problem, is that my brain's rarely functioning well enough to just rely on it to just spin around and hope that I land on those promos and stuff instead of just reading. So that's probably the better plan.
Yeah, who knows? All right, let's start with some general thoughts, if you have any. Do you have any general thoughts on tonight's? We've got a 9-game slate. Any points you want to make before we just jump in, or are you ready to just jump into the games?
So like everybody else out there, it's a little early. This isn't normally my time slot for sure. In the words of Bart Simpson, there's a 6 o'clock in the morning now. But yeah, I think just in looking at things as I'm piecing everything together, it looks like a nice deep pitching slate. There's a lot of really talented premium type pitchers, some in good spots, some in more challenging situations matchup wise, like Robbie Ray against the Guardians, premium strikeout pitcher, premium option, but definitely a tough strikeout matchup. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can mix and match, and you're not mix and matching like $7,000-$8,000 mid-range pitchers just like we were yesterday. Today, I think there's a lot of good options to go. So it'll probably be more of a lean into the pitching side of things as we go through it, but I'm curious to just kind of start peeling back the onion with you.
All right, right on. We got a super chat right away from Jorge Jacome. Says, thanks for the info yesterday, Terry. Got 5th on the relay throw tournament. Thanks a lot. So nice. $10 super chat from Jorge. Thanks a lot. Yeah, nice job, Terry, for giving good advice, and of course to Jorge for actually
I love seeing those. We talk about that all the time. I had, going into yesterday's show, I had a Thursday that was just brutally bad, probably my worst night of the year. Last night, slight improvement over that, but still down money. But seeing something like that, especially early in the morning, kind of lifts my spirits. I love seeing people win with our advice, with the stuff from the site. It's just so refreshing, not only to know that we're working at a place that's providing people with great content, potentially life-changing winnings, but for when I'm getting my ass kicked, it's nice to know that I was right about something. And it's also nice to know that we're just, we're helping people out there. And I know Jorge, a little bit personally, just from talking in our various chats and stuff, and good guy. So just totally deserved, hard worker, and dedicated to learning how to do this stuff the right way.
Yeah, always fun to see the good guys win. Nice job, Jorge. All right, let's move on game by game. We'll start with the Athletics at the Orioles. The Athletics have a 3.6 run implied total. Orioles 4.4. We've got Adam Aller on the mound for the A's, Austin Voth for the Orioles. Let's start at pitcher. Do you have any interest in either of these two pitchers?
No. Remember when I said this is a deep pitching slate with a lot of talented guys? That didn't include either one of these guys. Voth is getting a little bit of love on DK at 5,200, and it's probably just a price play. I think, just looking at some of the other options in that kind of a price tier, you're talking about Pat Corbin against the Mets. That's unfortunate. That's not going to go well. Jake Odorizzi, maybe at 6,100. I would probably prefer a little bit to this Voth situation, but I get it. At 5,200, you're paying like a bat price for him. So if you get a few points, you're okay. So in limited shares, but I don't think I would push anywhere near that 11.7% that the field's at. 20% strikeout rate for him, a 4.20 xFIP, 4.48 ERA, 2.94 home run rate. He's okay, but there's not much upside there. Aller on the other side, no interest.
Okay, so even in the matchup against the Athletics, you're not totally buying into Austin Voth. You might have a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, the matchup definitely helps. It's a team that I've been targeting all season long. It's just, I don't love to go to these just, flat bad pitchers, even against a great, even in a great matchup, especially on a day where there's just, for every share that you're throwing to Austin Voth, even for price, you're buying probably 2 bad upgrades, but you're also, passing up on the situation to put a much better pitcher into that spot and then just work with your ownership on your bat. So it's not my preferred way to approach the slate.
Okay. Makes sense to me. How about the bats? So you don't love either pitcher. The bats don't actually have really great implied team. At least the Athletics 3.6, not great. Orioles, I guess, pretty middling. How much interest do you have in? Let's start with the Athletics. Any interest in the Athletics as one-offs or as full stacks?
Maybe a little bit. It would probably be more as one-offs around guys like Sean Murphy, Seth Brown, maybe a little bit of Langoliers in there. I don't love this lineup. I don't love stacking this lineup. They're bad at sequencing, but you can pick off a little bit of power. I'm showing nice power marks around those guys I mentioned, as well as Dermis Garcia, Cody Thomas are both pulling nice power marks if they're in the lineup here. So it depends. You've got a lot of very cheap hitting. So if you are stringing together a stack, and maybe it's a mini stack of 3-man, something like that, keep your cost down, keep your popularity down. Most of these guys sitting in the low to mid single digits, a couple of them creeping just over 10% in ownership, but the ownership on the other side is much higher, much more concerning situation leverage wise. So I think the Athletics are playable in that they're the Athletics on any given day. They're that bad. So just know what you're getting into, but they're playable is in an eyes open, I'm playing the Athletics kind of a sense. Okay.
Makes sense to me. What about the other side of the game? So not a ton of interest, but a little bit of interest in the A's. How about Baltimore? Do you have they have a 4.4 run implied total, so they're looking a little bit better. Worst pitcher, I would say, in Aller. How much interest do you have in the Orioles?
It's a spot for sure. It's a little concerning with a bunch of these guys sitting in the teens in terms of ownership. A lot of these guys pushing around 20% on the FanDuel side of things. So it's going to make it a little bit of a challenge to get there, but I really like the situation. Aller, like you said, definitely a good matchup for their bats. 13.2% strikeout rate over 68 and a third for Aller this season, a 41% hard hit, a 4.29% home run rate, 5.98 xFIP to a 5.66 ERA. He's super targetable. It's just with the weight of ownership. So you get guys, there are some offsets like on DK, Santander is sitting just under 10% because he's 5,000 on the slate. But then you get like cleanup hitting. Ramon Urias is 16% at 3,100. Mountcastle 15%. Gunnar 15%. There's a lot of bats that are pulling a little bit of popularity. So I'll definitely have some Orioles. I'll hope that the ownership comes down. We'll see what the lineup looks like. But it'll probably be more focusing on just trying to grab some of those ownership dips. Like Gunnar Henderson on FanDuel, 8.5%. I could definitely play Austin Hayes, 7.8%. Maybe some Jorge Mateo from the bottom of the lineup for lower ownership. So it just depends on where you're going and how you're putting it together. They are playable. Rutschman looks fairly owned, 12.5% for 5,400 on DK. That seems, reasonable. It's not like it's a cheap catcher play. At that price, it's probably about the right ownership, but I think that's still playable even as a one-off at catcher. He's just good enough, and this matchup is good enough. So I think that makes some sense over there. So yeah, the O's are on the board, but I don't love the popularity.
Yeah, 14.4%. I didn't even realize that we had top stacks available. I didn't think it was usually available this early, but we've got it. And yeah, they are.
Somebody out there loves this. They knew we were on early. They made sure to drop it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Baltimore looking fairly overowned here, and Oakland Also looking over-owned relative to top stack odds, but they look like one of the better value stacks on the day.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got, I mean, just looking at DK pricing, the bottom 5 hitters in that lineup have an average salary of 2,080. It's 2,100, 2,300, and then 3 min price guys. So makes sense that the value is there.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. All right, anything else that you want to say about this game before moving on to Nats at Mets?
No, this is one of those less said the better kind of situations, I think.
All right, sounds good. All right, so the Nats have a 3-run implied total, Mets 4.8. We've got Patrick Corbin on the mound for the Nationals, Max Scherzer going for the Mets. Let's start with the pitchers. How much interest do you have in Max Scherzer, and any interest in Patrick Corbin here?
No interest in Corbin. He's just been, awful to pretty bad through the last 2 years or so since he fell apart, 2.5 years. This season, 3.96% home run rate, a 45.6% hard hit, 10.4% barrels over 26 starts, 127 and 2/3 innings. The strikeouts aren't there anymore, 18.6%, 9.7% swinging strike rate. His xFIP is 4.21 to that atrocious 6.56 ERA. So technically he's a little bit better than his numbers look like, but he's very targetable with bats. There's also just not a lot of strikeout upside. So even if he had one of those games where, we've seen him a couple times this season come out and put up decent starts where he finds a few strikeouts, that's just unlikely against this Mets team. So no interest in Corbin, tremendous interest on the other side in Max Scherzer, but everybody in the brother has tremendous interest in Max Scherzer going up against this Nats team. He's super duper popular today, but totally justified. He's Max Scherzer going up against a bad Nats team.
Do you think you're going to be getting close to what the field is doing with Scherzer?
Since they're pushing 44% on the FanDuel slate right now, probably I'll be below that. 25 to 30 feels a little bit better to me, just given the preponderance of options today. Corbin Burns, Shohei Ohtani, Julio Urias, Adam Wainwright, Luis Garcia, Robbie Ray, Dylan Cease. There's a lot of pitching today. So I want to be able to spread out shares. If I'm dumping half my ownership into Max, that limits what I can do with some of these other guys. So I'll probably look to be have a big chunk of Max, but be under, and then try and get over on a couple of those other guys. Similar on DK, but probably a little less egregious, 54.9% versus the doubled up pitching ownership. I think you can probably be a little bit closer to the field, maybe even get a little bit aggressively above the field on Max on the DK slate, honestly, where you've got a little bit more options to spread out.
Okay. Sounds good. Works for me. What about the Nationals? They're facing Max Scherzer. They have a 3-run implied total. Do you think you're going to be playing any National stacks, or do you think you have interest in any one-offs?
It's not a team I go to a ton, and against Max Scherzer, it's just not really for me. I sincerely doubt I'll end up with any stacks. If I ended up with a one-off or two, I wouldn't be, I probably would rush to take it out of my lineup. Actually, I'm just thinking like, who would that one-off be that I would want in a righty matchup against Max Scherzer? Yeah, for me, I would just I'm not taking him out of the pool necessarily because I don't really do that with bats, but it's not a team I'm going out of my way for.
Yeah, I take the same approach. I'm not taking anybody out of my pool, but I can't imagine the projections are going to be giving me much in terms of Nats.
Yeah, what about if I do my sort later and I see 10 Nationals lineups in the top 50, I'm gonna have to really reconsider how I'm doing things.
Yeah, that might be bad approach in that case. Yeah. All right. So on the other side of it, the Mets though have a 4.8 run implied total. They're going up against Patrick Corbin. Exploitable matchup. How much interest do you have there?
A lot. They're not drawing the ownership I kind of thought they might be in this spot. Corbin's been targetable for most of the season. Like I said, most of the last couple of years, plenty of hard hit there, not enough strikeouts, not enough swinging strikes. He's got a 1.76 whip. So, I mean, some of that is based on batting average on balls in play, but batting average on balls in play goes up when you're allowing that many really hard hit balls. So it kind of all tracks toward, just it's a talent thing at this point in his career. A lot of Mets owned in the single digits, only Pete Alonso over 10% on the FanDuel slate. All very, very affordable. Yeah, you can definitely sign me up for some Mets shares. I would not be shocked to see this team be a decent amount more popular by the time before lock rolls around.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. They're currently only pulling 6.1% ownership on DraftKings with an 8.4% chance to be in a top stack. And it's just an exploitable matchup. I think anybody's going to see it. So I think I am on the same page as you. That's probably going to go up. But if it doesn't, they're looking great. I would
and I mean the way their pricing is set up today too, they're just going to land in a lot of lineups just naturally. I think just through optimizer, like there's going to be big projection on the top end of the lineup, and you've got a bunch of fairly affordable bats in there. So I think they're definitely going to go up. But I mean, Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso up at the top, and then you've got a bunch of just movable integral parts in guys like Eduardo Escobar, Jeff McNeil, Mark Canha. It's just a good lineup from top to bottom. So definitely a target for me, at least as things stand right now.
Anything else that you want to say about this game?
Power looks like it's mostly on the Mets side, as you would expect. And yeah, just, smash spot for Max Scherzer, obviously, in terms of the upside there. It just depends on where you want to be relative to the field. But if somebody said they were locking Max Scherzer here, I would tell them that it's a big slate. Maybe they want to reconsider, but I wouldn't really have a strong argument against other than like DFS purposes.
Okay. All right, Terry, I'll give you a longer coffee break now. Do a little read. Guys, you can get access to all the great Stokastic Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with a Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on stokastic.com, including player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, our premium Discord channel, and much more. If you're a new Stokastic Plus user, then you can save 50% on your first video of any Stokastic Plus pass. All you have to do is click the link in the video description below to activate this offer, or you can head to our join page and use promo code MLB Strategy Show, all caps, one word. That's MLB Strategy Show for 50% off your first week of any weekly package. If you only want to play MLB DFS, that's perfectly fine. You can head to our MLB weekly checkout page instead and use this code to get 50% off your first week of our MLB package. Again, this is for new users only. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on and is not included in our base packages, but can be easily added at checkout. Join Stokastic Plus today. All right, that was long. Did you get enough coffee there?
Yes.
All right, good.
Gradually becoming properly caffeinated as the show goes on.
All right, sounds good. All right, Mariners at Guardians. We've got Robbie Ray on the mound for the Mariners, going up against Xavier Curry for the Guardians. The Mariners have a 4-run implied total, Guardians at 3.4. Let's start with the pitchers. How much interest do you have in Robbie Ray and any interest in Xavier Curry?
Yeah, the Ray side's at least interesting. Like I said at the top of the show, he's on that list of the premium options on this slate. 28.6% strikeout rate on the season, a 3.40 xFIP. He hasn't been quite as good as he was last year, but he's definitely not still, back to the unpredictable, very puzzling, enigmatic Robbie Ray of old. He's a very reliable premium starter. It's just a really bad matchup for strikeout upside. These Guardians are very, very good at limiting the strikeouts, and they're a pretty good offense in general. They can string some sequencing together. They can string some runs together. They've got a little power, a little bit of speed. So I don't love the matchup, but that's being reflected in the ownership. He's under 10% on DK at 9,800. That seems cheap and low owned. At 10.7, you're paying a premium for him on FanDuel, but only 3% of the slate's going there. So I think it's a spot I'm going to be over the field just kind of naturally. I can fall into 10% Robbie Ray almost by accident here, and be well ahead of the field and be pretty happy about it. Again, not a good matchup for strikeouts. The Guardians against right-handed pitching this year, as a active roster, have a 15.4% strikeout rate. That's by far the best in baseball. That's the best in baseball against either hand, by about a full percentage point. 16.1% against lefties for Houston looks to be the next lowest mark. So again, they're spectacularly good at avoiding the strikeout, but he's a very good strikeout pitcher. So we can maybe find it. Oh, I'm sorry. I gave you the number against righties. This is Robbie Ray. He's a lefty. Against lefties, Cleveland is 19.2%, seventh in baseball. So a little bit better upside there for Robbie Ray.
Okay.
Not properly caffeinated. Gave you the wrong handedness there.
Good enough, but the overall theme still holds that you do have some interest in Robbie Ray.
Probably that actually improves the outlook for Ray. They're a little bit worse at avoiding the strikeout against lefties, so that improves it for Ray.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think I would like to be over the field on Robbie Ray. He's just too talented to be getting no ownership. And it sounds like no interest in Xavier Curry.
No, thanks. 4,000 on the DK slate. I don't really see it, even at that price. You can take some shots. Looks like about 2% of the people are going to be doing it, but I don't think you're getting the innings. I don't think you're getting the depth and or the upside here.
All right. The Guardians are a tough matchup for Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray is also a tough matchup for the Guardians. Do you have any interest in playing Guardians as stacks or one-offs?
Maybe a little. For all his upside, Robbie Ray still a little bit gettable from time to time. 8.4% walk rate is a little higher than you'd like. A 3.82% home run rate, 38.9% hard hit. So it's not as inflated as it's been in years past in terms of the premium contact. Like last year, despite a great year, it was a 42.9% hard hit, 9.8% barrels, 4.27% home run rate. So he's tamed that a little bit in terms of the premium contact, but it is still there. If he puts a few too many guys on base, you get the big knockout of a Jose Ramirez, somebody like that. They're all very low owned, except for Ramirez, who's fairly low owned anyway. So I think he can get there. It's not the biggest upside lineup. There's a lot of weakness in the back end around Ernie Clement, Tyler Freeman, Luke Mahle, Miles Straw. That gets a little bit ugly, but if you're going top 5, I wouldn't argue with it in limited shares. Grab a handful of them.
Okay. What about the other side of it? Do you have any interest in the Mariners in the matchup with Savion Curry?
Yeah, I think that's a spot you can definitely look at. There's some premium bats in that lineup in terms of the contact profile, in terms of the power. Julio Rodriguez, obviously power and speed upside. So a lot of bats I like. Julio up top, Ty France, Mitch Haniger, Eugenio Suarez, Jesse Winker, Carlos Santana. Even down through, the bottom end of the lineup, the bottom 3, Adam Frazier, Cal Raleigh, and JP Crawford. Raleigh's been murdering the ball this season as a relatively affordable, relatively unowned catcher. 21 home runs in 339 plate appearances, a 271 ISO, 42.6% hard hit, 14.4% barrel rate. He's still only 4,000, 5.7% owned on DK, 2,500, 2.9%. He's a catcher that I will play at that first base position or the util spot on FanDuel. It's an approach I've mentioned a few times through the season. With some of these premium catcher bats, you can often find a good bat in a decent lineup spot that just goes under owned because he plays a position you don't technically have to roster. Most catchers, not the best hitters in the world, but when the guys are good hitters, it's totally justifiable, and it's an easy way to get your lineup a little bit different. So Raleigh's on that list for me. So yeah, 1 through 9 with the projected lineup. This lineup plays for me.
Right on. Yeah, I think they look really good today. I'm going to definitely have some interest in Seattle. Coming in at 6.6% ownership right now. We'll see if that goes up. I don't think that it's a sure thing to go up. I would expect it to maybe go up a little bit, but currently looking good.
Yeah, and on the DK slate, everybody under 10%. On FanDuel, you get Julio and Mitch Haniger popping into the mid-teens. Julio at 18, Haniger at 16, because they're just cheap, 3,700 and 3,100. Those are better players than those prices. So I get the ownership there, but everybody else is still fairly low on. Winker pulling 11%, but everybody's single digits. And then, all single digits on DK. That's easy to string together with a good lineup.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No, take the next one.
All right, let's move on then to Twins at White Sox. The Twins have a 4.2 run implied total. White Sox 3.8. Tyler Mahle on the mound for the Twins, going up against Dylan Cease. Tough pitching matchups for both teams. How much interest do you have in these pitchers, Cease or Mahle?
I like Tyler Mahle a lot, but I believe this is his first start back from the injured list. So I don't know what the depth looks like. I haven't had a chance to pull it up and look what his rehab starts or anything look like, or if they've got an announced pitch count. Do you know offhand if they've got a pitch count on him tonight?
I do not know offhand. Let's,
okay.
So
that would be my concern in going to Tyler Mahle here. It's a playable matchup against the White Sox. He is a good strikeout pitcher. 25.6% strikeout rate over 22 starts, 118 and 2/3 innings this year. Last year, 27.7% over 180 innings. He's proven himself, but he can definitely get dinged from time to time. He puts a few too many guys on base. There's upside for the White Sox bats. In a full Mahle start, I'd probably have interest in him, but he'd probably be going a little bit more owned. I think he's getting a little lack of popularity because of that. So for me, it's probably more on the Cease side of things in this one.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get to a quick Google here, see if there is a pitch count that I can find really quick. Tyler Mahle returns for key start versus the White Sox. Blah, blah, blah. Might be on a shorter leash as he recovers from shoulder fatigue. Yeah, they're going to keep him short if it's a shoulder. I couldn't remember what the injury was. So sometimes you see guys come back. If it was like a leg thing, he'd be fine and, fully stretched out. But with a shoulder issue, I don't think they're going to really push him here. So I'd be concerned about the depth on the Mahle side of things. But yeah, Cease, 31.7% strikeout rate on the other side. You can definitely sign me up for some of that. He's low owned on FanDuel too. 10.9. The price is keeping people away. 7.5% ownership. At 9,100, he's at 25% on the DK slate. I think that ownership is appropriate. I think the price is low over there. I'm happy to pay the inflated price on FanDuel if it's going to keep the public at bay. 7.5% is just too low for a guy who's pitching as well as he is. He's another guy, puts too many guys on, but he has the strikeout upside where he typically gets himself himself out of trouble a lot of the time. For the season, a 3.32 xFIP, a 2.27 ERA, 15.9% swinging strike rate. There's nothing not to like about Dylan Cease here. So definitely can sign me up for some shares of him at an inflated FanDuel price or at some reasonably high DK ownership. Although I guess at 9,100, that seems actually, it might be a little light on DK at 25%. What do you think of that? Is that a spot you're looking at on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming in at only 25% projected ownership, which according to the top pitches tool is a little bit overowned, but I wouldn't be upset if I were overweight to Dylan Cease, even at 25% projected ownership. He's just one of the highest upside pitchers on this slate. So yeah, I'd be totally fine going over that 25% number in my lineups.
Yeah, I think it makes sense at that price. That feels a little bit light. And comparatively, like site to site, DK's been a little bit friendlier recently with some of the pitcher pricing, and it looks like that today. Like you can get Corbin Burns at 96, you can get Julio Urias at 87, but that Cease price is at least as good as those. So that's definitely a target for me.
Okay. Yeah. And backing up your Tyler Mahle take that he's probably not going to pitch late into this game, I'm going to use a source that I've never heard of before with 693 followers on Twitter, but I trust him. John Shipley says, according to Rocco Baldelli, Mahle will start, but might not pitch. He says might, I guess, not pitch deep into the game. The quote is, I think he's going to be back and fine. The only thing he may not have is the pitch count and the buildup that we would normally have. So he doesn't say, I guess, definitively that he's not going to pitch deep into the game, but I think that's the most likely outcome is that he's not going to be pitching super deep into the game.
Yeah, it makes sense. A 75, 80 pitch kind of a thing, 5 innings, kind of a cap and get him out of there. And I'm just always cautious with shoulder injuries with pitchers anyway. That's one of the big red flag injuries for me, almost more than elbows, because a guy's typically just not going to be out there with an elbow thing, unless he's back to 100%, where shoulders seem to be a little bit trickier. Guys can feel good, but then it's still not totally back, and it saps a lot of the upside in their I can't explain the physics of it, but it saps a lot of the upside in the power that they can bring through their arm. So it could have an impact on his stuff. So I usually do like to see a guy a little bit before going back to him when he comes back from a shoulder too. So
okay,
another reason to consider tempering expectations.
All right. That is fair. I will probably fade Tyler Mahle in that case. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on? Do we talk about the White Sox? I mean, if Tyler Mahle is going to be limited, maybe the Twins go to their bullpen earlier. How much interest do you have in the White Sox?
Yeah, I think that would lead me at least a little bit into some White Sox bats here. You might lose 4 or 5 innings against a pretty good starter in Tyler Mahle, but if he doesn't fully have it, if he's not totally back all the way yet, then you're maybe getting a little bit of upside there, getting to the Twins bullpen a little bit early. Now we're talking, and the White Sox are not drawing that much ownership. They're very affordable because they haven't been great through the season. But there's still a lot of bats in that lineup that I like Andrew Vaughn, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, Gavin Sheets, maybe some AJ Pollock in there. Elvis Andrus doesn't belong in baseball anymore. There's no reason in the world he should be leading off for a team in 2022, but there he is at the top of the lineup. That came up in chat yesterday. Somebody was saying they love him up there. Elvis Andrus has had 2 years in his entire long career where he had a better than average WRC plus. Every other year he's been well below average, not a leadoff hitter. He's got where's his on base? 301 on base percentage this year. Not a leadoff hitter in 2022. But yeah, that's my rant about Elvis Andrus. The Twins on the other side, you can also, maybe take some shots there, but they're probably drawing a little bit too much ownership for my tastes. I mentioned that Cease tends to, maybe put too many guys on base, but like I said, he also pitches his way out of that more often than not, finds the strikeouts. And these guys are pulling 7% on Max Kepler, 13.7% on Nick Gordon. It's just not a spot I love going to if some people are going there. Like those are around the appropriate ownership marks.
Okay. I did just realize, because this didn't make any sense to me, I realized that the implied run totals I've been reading off are incorrect. These are from yesterday's games. I apparently did not update those in the run sheet. So I was like, why are the Twins favored in this game? This doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just did not update those because they were, as I was doing the run sheet last night, they weren't available yet. I updated everything else, but I did not update the implied run totals. So that makes sense that, the White Sox
it's always fun
are favored.
When the sites that I use for the run totals in the morning, when I'm putting my sheet together, sometimes, a game doesn't have a pitcher announced or whatever. So I've got to guess at it to put it in my model. So I always like playing that game of, guess the run line and see how well I did when I remember to adjust it back in the end of the day. Where it costs me sometimes is when I'm way wrong and don't remember to adjust it back at the end of the day. It's like, how the hell did I get these guys?
Yeah, these are just a copy paste from yesterday's run sheet or these implied run totals. And I changed all the other numbers, but did not change the
I've got the White Sox pulling a 4.04 and the Twins at a 3.5.
Okay, so not a huge spread there, but the White Sox are favored. All right, so anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No, the Twin side of things, there's some cheap bats there, but like I said, you're throwing them up against Cease with some people on them. It's just not my favorite spot. So I might get a few in around the edges, probably up more toward the top of the lineup, some very cheap bats toward the bottom. But I probably prefer the White Sox side if I'm gun to my head, have to choose a side of this one.
Okay, sounds good. Guys, let me tell you about our sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks offers daily prop-based contests. You can use promo code AWESEMO, that's AWESEMO, for a $100 first match deposit bonus. There are no Sharks optimizers or mass entries at PrizePicks. You create 5-player lineups that can net up to 10x your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sport entries. Click the link in the video description below to head to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app in the App Store or on Google Play. All right, Terry, let's move on to the Cubs at the Cardinals. We've got Drew Smyly on the mound for the Cubs, Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals. How much interest, if any, do you have in these pitchers?
No interest whatsoever in Drew Smyly outside of he is a big flashing target for the Cardinals bats on the other side of this one for me. That's the only way that Drew Smyly is at all relevant for me today. 19.6% strikeout rate. That's fine. You know, serviceable pitcher, 4.24 xFIP, a 3.24 ERA. It's not like he's been bad this year, but the cards against lefties has been the best spot for run creation in all of baseball all season long. So I'm just going to go right back to that. And it doesn't look like the field is going to. On the other side, I'm definitely interested in some Adam Wainwright against this lousy Cubs lineup. 7,800 is way too cheap for his talents on the DK slate. We're talking about I shouldn't have emphasized it maybe to that degree because he's a veteran guy, 19.5% strikeout rate on the season, right? That doesn't necessarily seem like it's justifying my enthusiasm for how low that price is. But I just think Adam Wainwright is so proven over so much time, so reliable in this matchup in particular, that price could easily be, 1,500 higher and it would be worth paying here. So I think that price is low. And I think the ownership at 20% for that price on DK is probably pretty low. 10,000 on FanDuel, 7.1%. Happy to pay the price. I'll probably be double-ish the field. If I'm 15% to the field, 7. I'm pretty happy about that here with Wainwright. A lot of upside against these Cubs.
Okay. Yeah, in this game, I looked at it. Cubs have a 3.2 run implied total, Cardinals at 4.5. How about the bats on the other side of it? Do you have interest in the Cubs with their 3.2 run implied total against Wainwright?
If I get overextended to Wainwright shares, I might grab a hedge stack or two. Just grab some of the power bats, some Ian Happ, some Say Suzuki, maybe some Franmil, some of these guys who hit the ball hard from time to time. But it's not a spot I'm going out of my way for. I really like Adam Wainwright. He's a pitcher that I've gone to tons and tons of times over his long storied career, and he's just effective. Like it's rare that Waino is going to go out there and just get lit up completely, right? He might go out and not have the upside fantasy start that I'm looking for on the other side, where he comes out and strikes out 8 or 9 of these guys and pitches through 7 clean innings for me. But the odds of him going out and pitching 3 innings and giving up, 9 runs and then turning it over to the bullpen and the Cubs really going off, it's just so thin that I don't really need it with such a bad team. If it was a better team that he was pitching against, maybe I would be a little bit more interested.
Okay. Well, there's a better team on the other side of it. How much interest do you have in the Cardinals?
Strong enthusiasm for the Cards today. I was on the spot yesterday in a much worse matchup against a righty, and they came through with like 8 runs. And it's just a spot I want to go right back to. Doesn't look like the field's going there. St. Louis against left-handed pitching this season for the active roster, 220 ISO, first in baseball, 17.7% strikeout rate, second best in baseball at avoiding the strikeout, a 4.29% home run rate, best in baseball, and a 145 WRC plus against lefties. That's 45% better than average creating runs on this side of splits. The next highest mark for run creation against either hand is a tie at 127 between the Astros and Braves against left-handed pitching. So they're 18 percentage points better than the average, than the next team in creating runs. They're that much better at creating runs against lefties than any other spot for offense in baseball. Absolutely sign me up for Cards. Everybody under 10% ownership. A lot of these bats under 5%. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Albert Pujols have been on fire against lefties since the All-Star break. He's still only 2,500, 7.8% owned on DK, 2,700 and under 1% owned on FanDuel. Tyler O'Neill has been turning his season around. He's got a 43.1% hard hit rate and 11.6% barrels. He's up to 12 home runs, 11 stolen bases now. So the counting stats are gradually pulling along to fill out his line a little bit. Struggled through the early part of the season, but definitely a premium bat, ton of upside, not drawing any attention. Top to bottom, I can get to the Cards here.
Yeah, as full stacks are getting no ownership currently, 3.4% projected ownership on the stacks with a 6.8% chance to be in the top stack on the day. So if things hold like this, they're going way under owned, and I would want to be well over the field.
Is there weather in that game?
Maybe
what's keeping that ownership away? It looks. I'm looking at it now. It doesn't look like, because there was weather in the area last night that kept the ownership a little bit lower. Looks like rain in the afternoon, but stopping around like 2 p.m. So maybe people are just have that on their minds again. I'm not sure what's keeping the public away from the Cards. That's another spot. It'll be interesting to see where that is when Live Before Lock rolls around later on.
Yeah, there's plenty of day left for that to change before the game starts. So make sure you come back for Live Before Lock just to hear about the updated ownership in that game. We got producer Mike on the scene.
Well, actually, there probably will be. It'll just be a lot of people yelling at me in the background for like not coming back for it.
You're not going to come back for Live Before Lock?
No, I'm saying if I don't. I said if I don't, there wouldn't be one because I'm on the show.
Oh,
but
I see.
That's probably not the case. They'd probably just find somebody to step in and then get mad at me.
Yeah.
So there will be a show whether I'm here or not, but I will.
All right. So you will be here. Good to hear that you're going to be around for Live Before Lock. So you can give your updated opinions with the new ownership projections. All right. We've got
6 o'clock show is totally different than the 9 o'clock show.
Yeah, hopefully. Mike has been updating the implied run totals behind the scenes for me. Of course, I've got my own sheet that I'm reading off. I don't use the run sheet that I send you guys because I got to put in all the stuff that I need to read.
The same thing.
Yeah. All right. Do you anything else that you want to say about the Cubs at Cardinals game before we move on?
No, firmly both sides of the Cardinals side of this one, pitching and hitting. Lot less interest in either side of the Cubbies on this one.
Okay. Then let's move on. We've got Marlins at Braves coming up next. The Marlins have a 3.2 run implied total, Braves at 4.5. We've got Edward Cabrera on the mound for the Marlins and Jake Odorizzi for the Braves. How much interest, if any, do you have in Cabrera and or Odorizzi?
It's an interesting spot for a pitcher like Edward Cabrera. He's a young pitcher with a inflated strikeout rate. I'm just trying to get to his game log here real quick. I want to check out his recent pitch counts. I want to make sure we're going to get the reliable depth. There's a lot of strikeout upside in that Braves lineup that I like to target. Yeah, 102, 101 last two, 91, 91. So he's fully stretched. I think there's upside here. 26.8% strikeout rate for Cabrera over the course of his 44 innings this year, 4.05 xFIP, 2.45 ERA. He's been good keeping the ball in the yard, 27.9% hard hit, 2.23 home run rate. The Braves are targetable for strikeout upside. There's a lot of Ks, especially for right-handed pitching in this lineup. The issue is there's also a lot of premium power, a lot of premium run creation in this lineup against righties. So you're playing with fire a little bit, but he's cheap and he is not that popular. So it's a targetable spot. Braves against righties active roster, 25.3% strikeout rate is 28th in baseball, but their 4.23% home run rate is best in baseball, and their 194 ISO is second best. So there's a lot of power coming the other way. But for 8,000 and only 2.5% popularity on DK, there's definitely GPP upside there. 9,200 on FanDuel, 0.9% owned. I'm a little bit less excited about it just on the slate where I'm only getting one bite at the pitching apple. I think there's just spots I trust a little bit more than that. I'll have a few shares. It's easy enough to get over 1% ownership in terms of leverage. So if I'm at like 5% on FanDuel, I think I'm fine. I think that 8,000, 2.5% owned though, that's an intriguing SP2 spot on the DK slate. You can do a lot with that. So there's more GPP upside probably on the DK side on this one. But Cabrera is definitely on the board.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page too. This is I think a scumdacker. Is it scumdacker? Yes. Is that what we call it? It's a scumdacker spot for me where I'm probably going to be playing both sides of it just because it is a high volatility spot. The Braves are a great hitting team, and they also strike out a lot. So I think you can go to either side of that one. But let's talk about that side of the game. How much interest do you have in the Braves today?
In the bats?
Yep.
Before we do that, let's not skip over Mr. Odorizzi real quick.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah.
6,100, 13% popularity going up against the Miami Marlins. There's probably enough on the bone for like a very cheap value pitcher. He was on the list of guys, if you're going to that extreme value tier on DK, like I like Odorizzi better than I like a Mad Bum, better than I like a Drew Smiley, Xavier Curry, Austin Voth, these different guys, even Voth against the Athletics, like we talked about earlier. I think there's similar upside for Odorizzi against a very bad Marlins lineup. 18.3% strikeout rate, over 85 and a third for Odorizzi, 4.58 xFIP, 1.24 WHIP. We know this guy's not going out there blowing away most teams, but these Marlins are bad. He's got enough talent for 6,100 anyway at 13% popularity on DK that I think he's a viable SP2. At 8,100, I don't think you necessarily need to go there too many times on FanDuel. You can throw a couple shots at it if you want. He's 2% owned. It's easy enough to get over the field. But I'd probably be more interested in the Cabrera play on FanDuel than the Odorizzi play. And I wasn't all that interested in the Cabrera side for 1,100 more. So as a DK $6,100 play, I think Odorizzi is on the board there.
So both of these guys are more DraftKings plays for you than FanDuel.
Yeah. Seems like.
Okay. Sounds good. Then let's move on to those bats. Then, as I mentioned, I think that I'll probably have some interest in the Braves against Cabrera. It's probably going to be a spot where I play both sides. Do you think you're going to be doing the same, playing any Braves today?
Yeah, absolutely. Cabrera, for all his talent in terms of strikeouts, 12.3% walk rate. He's putting too many guys on base via the free pass there. That's going to be a problem if he puts a couple extra Braves on base. These guys hit the ball really, really hard. I'm showing some nice power. I mentioned all the power metrics against righties that they've had all season long, best in baseball for power. So definitely for every share of Cabrera that I had on FanDuel, I would probably have 3 shares of Braves bats. Maybe that's a little closer to a 1-to-1 ratio on the DK slate, but definitely want to load up on some Braves bats on the other side of that equation. Acuna is obvious up at the top, but Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley is one of the best power hitters in baseball now. Matt Olson, big lefty bat lurking there at 2.4% popularity on DK, 5.3% for 3,600 on FanDuel. That's too cheap for Matt Olson on the FanDuel slate. And then, Contreras, Michael Harris, Vaughn Grissom, even Eddie Rosario for cheap is playable down the bottom, Robbie Grossman. So this is a lineup that plays 1 through 9 pretty much every day. And when they're under owned, I love going there.
All right, right on. How about the other side of it? The Marlins only have a 3.2 run implied total. You've talked about how bad they are. Do you think you're going to be playing any of them today against Odorizzi?
It probably depends on how much I actually come up with Odorizzi. They're not a good lineup. We've talked about it a lot. Like when I target pitching, I do like to do it with somewhat better lineups, but it's not like Odorizzi's a guy who's going to go out there and blow them away. So I think there's potential for them to scrape together some hits. And then if they get that big knock, maybe they deliver, but they're just not reliable enough for that. Against right-handed pitching this year, a 0.124 ISO, 27th in baseball, a 1.89% home run rate is 29th out of 30 teams. A 92 WRC plus puts them 8% worse than average creating runs against righties. They're okay at avoiding strikeouts. So maybe with enough balls in play against a low strikeout pitcher, they get there, but it's not a big upside spot. And they're getting a little bit of popularity. Like I wouldn't want to go much beyond the 3-5% range for any of these hitters. And that's around where they're at. So not a big target for me, but if I got a few shares, I wouldn't totally mind it.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
No, just major home run upside on that Braves side of things. Seen some very nice inflated home run totals in my home run model here. So they'll be up toward the top of the power index when I put that together later on.
All right. Well, we've got 11 minutes left, 3 more games to get through. Let's start with the Brewers at the Diamondbacks. The Brewers have a 4.7 run implied total. Did I update this? I might not have updated this. Yeah, 4.7 to 3.5 for the Diamondbacks. We have Corbin Burns on the mound for the Brewers, Mad Bum on the mound for the D-backs. How much interest do you have in these pitchers?
Burnside for sure. I think he's probably going a little bit under, maybe not technically in terms of where the tool is showing him. I'm not looking at our top pitchers tool right now, but just on talent, 158 in the third innings, 30.9% strikeout rate at 2.97 xFIP, a 0.98 WHIP, a 15.3% swinging strike rate. He limits premium contact. He won a Cy Young last year. He's a top end starter. For 10-4 on FanDuel in this matchup, the Diamondbacks have been frisky. I don't want to take anything away from them. It's a team I've kind of, said negative things about through a lot of the year, and they've produced to a decent degree. 166 ISO is 7th in baseball, 20.6% strikeout rate against righties is 9th in baseball, still 2% behind the curve in terms of run creation, but they can put bat on ball. They can hit for a little bit of power, but I just love the upside in Burns. And I think 9,600 for him is a cheap price on the DK slate. He's only drawing 25% ownership at that price. So I think that's a little light for the price. And then 10-4 on FanDuel. I'm happy to pay that. And 14% ownership. He's right in that bucket with some of these other guys where I've said it's a premium price, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's keeping some of the ownership at bay. If he was a little bit cheaper, he'd be in the 20% plus range on FanDuel. So I think that's a good opportunity to grab some shares of Corbin Burns where we're not getting them at the extreme high ownership that we typically do. It's a big slate, a lot of good pitching options, but he's definitely on my board. If he's 15% and I'm 20-25, I'm fairly happy with that.
We've got EMAC checking in the chat. EMAC, who I had to replace today, he didn't want to come on because it was too early for him. So we said, give it to the new guy. We'll put the new guy in there. I'm wondering where EMAC is today.
He is, I believe, live from Rochester, New York, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. So it's just not at his home studio, but he's up and he's ready to chat. All right, good to see EMAC in the chat.
What else are you gonna do in Rochester?
Yeah. All right. So definitely you have interest in Burns. Did you say whether you have any interest in Mad Bum today?
I didn't. I don't think I do. I've been trying to find my spot for Mad Bum all season long. I've been mentioning, I'm not haven't totally given up on the guy despite his just insistence that I do with these numbers. And he's had a couple spots where he's produced those upside starts. I think each of those has been on a day where I said, nope, not going to be the day for Mad Bum today. So if you go by that, maybe this is the day to go to him, but I'm not seeing it. 5,600 on DK. Maybe you take a couple value darts if you want to. 6,200 on FanDuel. I don't see the need to go there. Brewers good enough against lefties. Some premium right-handed power bats. They'll probably stack the lineup with some righty power bats against them. Don't love it for Mad Bum here. 16.4% strikeout rate, a 4.78 xFIP. We can find better options.
Okay. Well, what about the other side of it then? You said the Brewers are looking pretty good. They have a 4.7 run implied total up against Mad Bum. Are you going to be playing any Brewer stacks or one-offs today?
It'll depend on how it comes through in my sort later on. They're getting a lot of popularity. A lot of hitters owned in the mid-teens, pushing up toward the 20% mark. They're very cheap. They're very easy to get to. I would like to have Brewers, particularly with like 3-position eligibility on Luis Urias in the middle of the lineup, multi-position on Kiston Yura in the middle of the lineup. Both guys very cheap. A lot of upside there in terms of premium contact, in terms of some power. So yeah, they're a team I'd like to get to. It just depends on what I'm going to be able to combine them with and where the field's going to be relative to them. So that's an answer that I'll have a bit better of a finger on once we get to live before lock later, but they're definitely showing through for some very nice power. Rowdy Tellez, the guys I mentioned just a minute ago, Hunter Renfroe, big time power bat against most lefties, especially here. He's drawing power numbers to rival some of the Braves premium power bats. McCutchen, still a capable righty bat in that lineup. Willie Adames up at the top of that lineup. So a lot of bats to like. It's just the popularity that becomes a concern.
Yeah, so in a vacuum, they look really good. It's just a matter of we'll see the ownership later, and luckily you will be back to be able to give your analysis at that point. On the other side of it, we've got the Diamondbacks in a tough matchup with Corbin Burns. They have a 3.5 run implied total. Do you think you're going to be playing any D-back stacks today or one-offs?
Probably not. Maybe if I had a couple Christian Walker one-offs from here and there, I would take them and not, aggressively get them out of my lineups. Maybe if Varsho trickled into a couple, maybe if I had those two guys and a Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, it's tough to justify against Corbin Burns. I'm trying to get there. It's probably more very small stacks or, like 2-3 mans or some one-offs around the premium bats. They're all in the 1% on range. So if you wanted to do it, particularly if you had a very big investment in Burns, I can make a reasonable case for it. There's enough talent there, but it's not a target for me. It's not a team I've gone to a lot this season.
Okay, so you could potentially hedge with some D-back stacks if you have Burns a lot elsewhere.
Yeah, more the spot where I can explain why you would go there, but it's not a spot for me kind of a situation.
Okay, all right, works for me. Anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
Get off the Brewers, everybody, so that I can play them.
Yeah, agreed. All right, guys, college football is here, which means that our weekly package is only $1 for your first week. This is your last chance to lock in this price, so take advantage now. This is a great way to introduce yourself to college football DFS, as you will get player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, access to our expert Discord chat, and more. Just click the link in the description below or use promo code Heisman. That's HEISMAN at checkout. That's code Heisman for your first week of Stokastic Plus college football for only $1. All right, 2 games left. We got 5 minutes. Start with the Astros at the Angels. The Astros have a 3.7 run implied total. Angels at 4.0. Luis Garcia on the mound for the Astros. Shohei Ohtani for the Angels. Both pretty good pitchers. How much interest do you have in playing them today?
Lots, especially the Luis Garcia side of things. We've seen these Angels yield premium strikeout upside to a lot of pitchers. If you can get around Trout and Ohtani, you've got a pretty soft lineup to work with here. The wrong Luis Garcia is populating through the stats, so I don't have his numbers directly in front of me, but he's a very talented young pitcher, decent strikeout upside. So I can target Luis Garcia all day. He's way too cheap at 7,600 on DK. If that is the correct Luis Garcia price, I also didn't change that. So 9.6% ownership though is, at least I could definitely say that that's the correct number, and that's too low. On FanDuel, he's 2% owned, also too low. I think there's nice strikeout upside here, so I'll go to Garcia. Ohtani on the other side has strikeout upside against basically anybody. That said, the Astros, one of the best lineups in baseball, one of the best lineups at avoiding strikeouts, 19.8% strikeout rate against righties for them. Tempers my expectations a little bit on Ohtani, but I'll definitely have some. 10% ownership on FanDuel, that's easy enough to get half again as much, or double the field. 15% owned on DK, same story. Easy to get to Shohei Ohtani, totally justifiable. 34% strikeout rate over 128 innings, one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, both these pitchers look great in the tools, with Ohtani only 15% projected ownership, 20% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on the slate. So he looks good. And then, Luis Garcia, only 7,600, 9.6% projected ownership with a 13.3% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on the slate. So definitely hitters that I'd like to target on DK.
That's why I stopped myself. I was like, maybe that's the wrong Luis Garcia price coming through, but that is just super cheap. He should be significantly more popular than that in this spot at that price.
Yeah, definitely interest there. What about the other side of this game? Do you think you are going to be taking either of these teams playing stacks in tough matchups? You think you're going to be just taking advantage of low ownership at all here, or are you going to pass over these ones?
I might land on a couple Astros stacks. It would probably depend on whether Jordan Alvarez is in the lineup or not. We saw him scratch late yesterday. He's just a dominant hitter. 61% hard hit rate for that kid this year. 19.7% barrel rate. He's phenomenal. 31 home runs and 452 plate appearances. So I love getting that lefty bat in the lineup. Him, Tucker, and then any combination of like the Altuve, Pena, Bregman, Yuli Gurriel, Trey Mancini, the righties in this lineup. Chas McCormick also on that list. I would take those guys, but I want both of the big lefties there if I'm going up against Shohei Ohtani. I think it's worth drawing some head shares here with this lineup. It's not a spot I would go to 10-15% of them, but they're all drawing like 1% ownership, so it's viable, but it depends on the final state of this lineup, and it would be, again, minimal shares just to target some of that. I wish Ohtani was a little bit more popular for that play too.
Yeah, the Astros currently only getting 2.3% projected ownership for the stack. So yeah, if it is a full Astros lineup, then maybe a good spot to target in obviously a tough matchup. All right, anything else that you want to say about this game before we move on to the final game?
Trout and Ohtani one-offs if you get them. No love for Angel stacks whatsoever.
Okay. All right. Final game of the night. We've got the Padres at the Dodgers. The Padres have a 3.5 run implied total. Dodgers at 5.2. We've got Sean Manaea on the mound for the Padres going up against Julio Urias for the Dodgers. Let's start with the pitchers. Any interest in Manaea or Urias today?
I tell you what, it's tough because these matchups are so bad. Talking about two very good offenses on the hill or against these pitchers on either side, but they're two very good lefty pitchers. Sean Manaea, 23.7% strikeout rate over 134 innings, 3.91 xFIP, a 4.90 ERA. He hasn't totally performed like Sean Manaea of old, but he's got enough of a track record that I kind of trust him. And at 6,600 on the DK slate, it's just way too cheap for the name brand that you're getting here. So I almost don't care that it's the Dodgers against him here. I think that's justifiable as a discount play. I didn't actually notice that earlier when we were talking talking about some of these discounts. So that's worth going to on DraftKings, at least to, he's 1% owned at that number. That doesn't make any sense to me. Sean Manaea at that price, he's 9,000 on the FanDuel slate. That's a more appropriate price tag, even with his struggles. He's under 1% owned over there. You can go to him. I don't love it on FanDuel for that price, but at the discount on DK, absolutely you can get there, even with the bad matchup against the Dodgers. Urias on the other side, 8,700 is a much more appropriate price tag. 7.3% is arguably a little bit low in terms of the ownership. At 10-3 on FanDuel, he's drawing also under 1% owned. This is a pitcher, 25% strikeout rate on the season, 3.70 xFIP, a 0.95 ERA. He's been very, very good this year. So I think both of these guys you can go to. They're both under owned. Take your shares where you need them and get beyond the field on both of these guys. Just do it knowing that you're throwing them up against premium lineups.
All right, Terry, we are running out of time. So real quickly, can you tell me how much interest you have in the Padres and or Dodgers as stacks or one-offs?
Yeah, particularly if I'm getting aggressive about shares of, getting beyond the field on Manaea and Urias, I think I would load up on some shares of the opposing lineups in other stacks. So Padres side of things, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Josh Bell, Brendan Drury, kind of obvious. You can mix and match the Ha-Seong Kims, Will Myers, Jerks, and Profars of the world. Jake Cronenworth on that list as well. Dodgers side of things, it's more of a top to bottom kind of a lineup, depending on what configuration it takes. The top end is always very good with Mookie, Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Justin Turner. And then you get the back end with the Chris Taylors, Trace Thompsons of the world, who will probably be in there against a lefty, maybe a little bit of pinch hit risk where you get some of the premium lefties like a Cody Bellinger, Joey Gallo in a big power spot coming in if they mix and match later in the game. But I'm not totally sweating that. But I'd be more focused on the top end for the Dodgers. That said, Dodgers are drawing a little bit of popularity against Manaea here. So I don't know how much I love the spot, because I do think, like I said, that Manaea is a better pitcher than what we've seen from him this year. So out of the four sides of this one, the Dodgers bats are probably my least favorite part of this.
Okay. All right. Well, we are out of time. Terry, is there anything else you want to say real quick about this slate overall today?
No, that was a lot of fun. I'll be back for Live Before Lock, so I'll have plenty more to say about it later on.
All right, right on. Well, thanks for watching, guys. That'll do it for us today. Please, on your way out, give us a like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Coming up next, we've got MMA Live Before Lock immediately following this show. Then we've got college football Live Before Lock immediately following that show. And then, as we've said a few times, come back later tonight for MLB Live Before Lock. Thanks for watching, guys.